From a humble beginning in 1921, the Communist Party of China, CPC, is celebrating its 100th year of existence. But it came into power in China in 1947, and so far it has done 72 unbroken years of governance in China. Like they will say, governing the people without the people's mind. Things are working and falling in place. The economic model, the political model. How is it working? That's the focus of the program today. And my guest is an associate professor, Sheriff Ghali Ibrahim, Director, Institute for Legislative Studies, University of Abuja, a lecturer in the Department of Political Science and International Relations, University of Abuja, and a fellow of Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, a fellow of Zhejiang Normal University, Hangzhou, China. Obtained his PhD from Hangzhou Normal University, Central China. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Let's look at CPC, Communist Party of China.
The Communist Party of China is a great name, which always resonates in the ears of the Chinese, as well as the neighboring states, in Southeast Asia. The Communist Party emerged in a period in which the Chinese people were nothing to talk about, in the global trend, as well as political terrain. Why? Because in that particular era, the Chinese were actually struggling to emerge, in fact, to even sustain. And that is why Chairman Mao, having studied the political conditions, of the Chinese people, he tried to plot a revolution, against the hitherto political party, which was actually governing the People's Republic, which was the Kuomintang party. And that is why the current president of China, who is being viewed, to have so many similarities with Chairman Mao, who is the father of the Chinese Revolution, in common is that in his philosophy and political thought, he made the Chinese people to understand that, and the world at large, that the people are their masters. The people are masters of the members of the political organizations. Why? Because it was the people that made the revolution. It was the people that actually formed the Communist Party. And that is why if you go to China today, all political and economic institutions are being tagged with the name People First. The country itself first, People's Republic of China, People's Bank of China, People's Liberation Army. So all the institutions of China first bear the name of the people, to signify that this party is meant for the people, it is for the people, and it is by the people. What we should actually look at here is what distinguishes the Communist Party of China, from other political parties obtainable in Europe, Africa, and Asia, and so many other places around the world, is that you look at the major objective of this particular political party, as well as the aim of the individuals who actually wield, powers under the auspices of these political parties. You discover that they are quite different. When the history, when you go into the abyss of history, you see the Communist Party, having its own roots, rooted on the people. And in 2021, the president of China is still reiterating about that particular objective of serving the people. If you come to Africa and many other places, you discover that the political parties are self-centered. The political parties have become a kind of organizations for capitalist investment, whereby you invest your money as well as get profit and dividend. That is why there is no even clear-cut ideologies, in these particular political parties. Why? Because what they are after is their own personal interest, not the interest of the community, not the interest of the party, not the interest of the common man in that particular entity. So from Chairman Mao to Deng Xiaoping to Jiang Zemin to Hu Jintao to the current president of China, who is President Xi Jinping, the president has been maintaining the internal struggle of the Communist Party. What I mean by the internal struggle of the Communist Party is sticking to the rules and regulations governing the conduct of public officials as well as all members of staff of government institutions in China. President Xi Jinping, in his philosophy and political thought, has identified two issues in governance, which he called the two upholds. Every Chinese, is aware of this, either within the ministries, either government parastatals, the embassies of China in other places. When you ask people of the two upholds, this can easily be interpreted into these two ways. One, every member of the Communist Party is expected to live by the principles of the Central Party Committee and the decisions made by this particular political party, which is you respect the rules and regulations, all the regulations. These are rules and regulations. This is what we call rule of law. Rule of law in the sense that in other places why things are not working is that the rule of law, the party principles are in tandem with the constitution, because the philosophy and political thought of President Xi Jinping have been enshrined into the constitution of the People's Republic of China.
Now you ask CPC,
yes,
it's a political party, and we have other political parties within China.
Yes.
Yeah, the face of China today is CPC. Will you call China a democratic country?
Yes, of course. China is a democratic entity. Why? Because our major problem...
It's a democratic institution. Why will there be this international balance? 72 years of governance without the people's mandate.
Yes, of course.
Well, the people's mandate means the people in governance
people's choice.
But this particular case, people in governance are elected.
All right, let me come to that. You see, the Chinese model, that is why the socialism, in let's say Russia, the Stalinist communist system, other socialist practice as we know in the world, China said, look, we are communists, we are socialists, but with difference. And what is that particular difference? President Xi Jinping upholds and maintains this particular idea. We practice socialism, but with Chinese characteristics. So democracy with Chinese characteristics. And that is why things work for China. We shouldn't actually block our mind that it has to be Western style. It has to be the Westminster model, or it has to be American model. No. What China does is that it looks at all other systems. It galvanizes all its political and economic structures and come up with a different model that works for China and the Chinese people. And that is why it causes socialism with what? Chinese characteristics. Now coming down to Chinese democracy. Chinese democracy is distinct from the American or the liberal democracy. Why is it so different? It is what? It is a socialist democracy. Socialist democracy in the sense that it allows people, a collective ownership. Apart from collective ownership, why is it with Chinese characteristics? Because in 1978, under the leadership of Deng Xiaoping, China made what is known as reform and opening up, which in Chinese it is called Gaiga Kaifan. Gaiga Kaifan means reform and opening up. And it has been the biggest reform so far in China. And it is the reform that opened up China and actually paved the way for Chinese economic and political development.
Let me just hold you there. Now, given your analysis now, so far it is said China has successfully completed the goal of building a moderately prosperous society within the structure and models put in place by the Communist Party of China, the economic model, the political model. And right now, China prides itself to be the largest middle class in the world of over about 400 million people, right? So, if this is working, where lies the success story? Or is the success story of the popular democracy we know not threatened?
It is quite threatened. Why? Because the Chinese model, right from the beginning, which we argue is different from the Western style of democracy. is that China tries to adopt policies, reforms, you know, in the political and economic spheres or terrain, which work for China and which must not necessarily work in other places. But I think what works in China should actually be emulated so that that can also work in other systems. People can adopt it using their own characteristics. So, but why is Chinese model different is that China tries to formulate policies. After formulating these policies, they try to fully implement these particular policies. And that is why every 5 years, China has a development plan. And this year, it is the 14th 5-year development plan. And the coming of Xi Jinping, he said that his argument is that he wanted to make China a prosperous society. He came up with a philosophy which he called the four comprehensives, which in Chinese is called Siga Chuanmian. Siga Chuanmian means four comprehensives. The first one is to make a China prosperous society. The second one is to deepen reforms in China. The third one is to deepen party discipline. And the fourth one is to deepen party discipline, you know, in China. So, how did he do that? Party discipline is to do away with corrupt officials of the Communist Party. Whoever you are, regardless of the power, if you deviate from that particular two upholds, which is respecting the decisions of the Communist Party, which are being enshrined into the Constitution of China, you'll be removed, if not even, go to jail. Why? Because you break the law, you break the Constitution of China, you break what the leaders of China have promised to deliver to the people of China. So regardless of your power and position, you will go to jail. This is absolute rule of law, and this is absolute what? Party discipline. So it is through this particular party discipline because we are able to make everybody, you know, to respect the laws. And these laws are the drivers, you know, towards development and political growth in this particular entity. And that is why President Xi Jinping has been able to make China a prosperous society. When I was in China, I left China 2011. When I went back 2015, I saw a tremendous change. Why? Because the purchasing power parity of the Chinese, you know, had improved, you know, and every year you visit China, you see a kind of a tremendous change taking place.
When we come back on this discourse, we shall be looking at how can the African continent and indeed Nigeria tap into this model as much as we are practicing a liberal democracy. Here's a democracy that talks about one huge political party that has existed for 100 years, has ruled the country for 76 years. Yet you have other political parties fused and working in tandem, just like the guest has said, when we return after the break. This whole humble journey started in Shanghai, and it was between a group of 30 to 50 persons. It has built up to this. What can Africa tap from this whole model?
Yes, of course.
Because I say this, we have democracy. Opposition, viral opposition. Here is a democracy working in different model. Is there opposition in China?
Yeah, you see, the style of democracy in China is that there is what is known as the consultative forum. There is also what is known as the legislative body, which is the National People's Congress. NPC is the largest lawmaking body in China. And there is also membership from the grassroots to the central level. And these delegates, you know, they are called delegates. And these delegates are being actually nominated as well as elected, right from the village, you know, to county, to provincial, and even, you know, central level. What is democracy beyond this? That is democracy. So then apart from this, what Africa needs to do is to copy from President Xi Jinping, especially our leaders, on this particular thought, the two upholds. That is, you have to be loyal to the political party. Why? Because just cross-carpeting to places where we think will serve our interests best, not having no ideology. You know, our people is not just the, you know, you contest, you challenge even the ruling party. You make sure that you deliver to the people. If you deliver to the people, regardless of your political association or organization, the people will go with you. But one major issue that we must do is that particular staking, you know, adhering to the principles, to the constitution, to the regulations of our political party is the first thing that we have to do. In Africa, you see members of a political party aberrating even the manifesto, the constitution of a party.
Because
the party,
in the regular democracy, they tell you after elections, you came on the platform of this political party, but after election, governance. So why would I believe it is a democracy after I've been elected? I'm ruling hook, line, and sinker political party.
And another
That's
issue,
the issue.
And another issue is that another big issue is that these political parties, especially the major political parties, they have made leadership a kind of a do or die, you know, affair. Why? Because we continue to hunt, you know, for members, you know, in order to make us emerge or re-emerge, you know, in the next general elections. That is just the mentality. But the mentality should be geared toward serving the people, you know, protecting the people, securitizing the people, providing political utility to the people, allowing people, school children to go to school, you know, and feel safe in this particular school. Allow the teachers scholarship, you know, give them proper training and more training so that they could actually deliver in this particular process education. If you go to China, for example, when President Xi Jinping says people are masters, are our masters, meaning we are serving the people. You know, we are the servant, but the people are the masters. You see educational institutions at all levels. China produces more number of people at any level of education, be it graduates, you know, be it PhDs, be it professors whatsoever. Why? Because in central China alone, in Hubei province, if you come to Hubei province, which have Wuhan, the source of the origin of this coronavirus, in Wuhan is just a capital city of Hubei, of a province. We discover that you have more than 100 universities in Wuhan. And these courses being studied in these universities are not ordinary courses like the ones we have here. Each and every university has speciality. For example, University of Law, University of Economics, University of Sports, University of Medicine. Each and every area of specialization has its own university. And if you see these universities, you know, they are big universities that you can actually compare them with the ones obtainable in Europe and America. With facilities, whatever you want, you find it there. So why we are after African leaders emulating from the Chinese political and democratic model is that to do away with self-centeredness, because this is our first problem. Because we have not been able to see the people as our masters. You know, we serve the people, you know, we look ourselves as the servant of the people. No, we look at people as our servant, not the masters, which is a difference. Look and see the line of demarcation. So we should look at the people first. And Xi Jinping argues that we should actually improve our party membership to actually securitize our people.
So to be a member of the political party, absolute loyalty is hostile.
Absolute loyalty. Because once you disrespect the party as an institution, because the party is the constitution is the party, they are intertwined. They are so juxtaposed. Why? Because it is the Communist Party. Members of the Communist Party are identified as the National People's Congress that make the laws. So each and every member of the National People Congress participate making laws right from the local level to the provincial level to the national level. And if they make these particular laws, there is strict and absolute monitoring and evaluation. Who respects the laws and who aberrates the laws? And that is rule of law. And it is only rule of law that makes societies governable. It is rule of law that brings about development. It is the rule of law that brings about security, harmony, and stability of every political environment. Why? Because those who break the laws should be brought to book. This serves as deterrent. to other people, so that we don't actually break the law. And another aspect of the two upholds is that, apart from loyalty, you embrace the principles of the party even in your day-to-day activities, to be part of your normal life. You respect the people.
Yes.
You don't actually, you should be so humble. That is why if you see the Chinese, they are very humble. You get the point? You don't look at yourself over or beyond any other person. Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yes,
now, the other aspect of it is when CPC endorsed and took a resolution that the sitting president, who incidentally is the Secretary General of the party, right, should remain a life president. What would have informed this? It's not going down well in some circles.
Yes, of course. You see, the Chinese people borrowed their political ideology and system from Marxism. And when President Xi Jinping came, he tried to build up from Karl Marx himself. Why? Because the argument of if a child doesn't do better than his father, then the father must have not trained the child well. So there were three issues brought forward by Marx in Marxian thought, which are clothing, shelter, and feeding. So in socialism or in communism, that the society should be able to deal with these particular three issues. People should be clothed, people should be sheltered, and food shouldn't be a problem for the people. Then when President Xi Jinping emerged, he reconstructed this particular socialist ideology by what? By having an incremental build-up. He added two other variables. Apart from clothing, apart from shelter, apart from feeding, he added education. Very paramount. Education. And apart from this, healthcare system. Because in China, you see that there are so many universities, and medicine is being studied as a discipline, as a course in China. And apart from this, which is the orthodox medicine, there is also traditional Chinese medicine. So in China, they look at healthcare as very significant for the survival of a population. And that is why they are actually committed in improving the healthcare system of the Chinese. Then apart from this, education, right from the grassroots to provincial to national level, education is being made free. The local villagers are being motivated to send their children to school without necessary imposition. But what do you see in Africa? You see government increasing school fees. We should, in fact, the first thing, because the cradle of civilization, before anything in the society, is education. Because it produces your nurses, it produces your doctors, it produces your lawyers, it produces your medical doctors, engineers. It also produces the general intelligentsia. So that is why education should be promoted and people should be motivated. It should be made available, just like what the Communist Party of China did. And apart from that, apart from the victory of the Communist Party of China, in promoting education to its own people, it also, take it to another level. Today, as we speak, we have about 8,000 Nigerians, more than 8,000 Nigerian students study in China under the Chinese government scholarship. You can see it has crossed the boundaries of China in terms of education, reaching to our own people. In Kano State, for example, Konkoso was even giving scholarship to the people of Kano State going out, India, Malaysia, China to study. Such scholarship has been stopped, So with the name of what? Opposition party. You can see some of the evils of even democracy. Why? Because the liberal democracy, we must not actually block our mind to see that the Western style of democracy is the only democratic system that can work for the people. The Westminster model we practiced in the First Republic failed us. The presidential system, that is the American model, what has it done to us? Maybe we should go back to the Chinese model.
Okay, beautiful. Now, in conclusion, do you see the liberal democracy threatened if the Chinese model permeates the world?
Not even permeating, it has been threatened. It is under a drastic threat currently. Why? Because it is obvious that China is rising. The former president of China, US, Jimmy Carter, said that the rise of China is inevitable. And it is rather natural that empires rise and empires decline. for you to know that the Roman Empire, which ran for more than 500 years, the Assyrian Empire, you know, the British Empire, how much of American empire will last? How long will it last? So Ibn Khaldun believed that when an empire emerges, rises, you see other territories, people copying that particular empire. And that is why today everybody goes to China.
So how fast should Africa capture on this?
Yes, of course. Africa should be able to move with the rising empire, copy, learn from its own model. So that, and that is why if you see the social investment program of Buhari, for example, Buhari is learning from China. Why? Because the social investment program in China deals with the youth, deals with the elderly. You remember when he came to power, he visited China and he met with President Xi. And they have been meeting at different intervals, summit, especially the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation. So now we should actually open up our eyes. When the Westminster model did not work, the presidential American model did not work, we should actually try to copy here. And apart from this, the poverty alleviation program of President Buhari here, which he pledged to lift at least 100 million people out of poverty,
yes,
is also a replication, or is something he sees that China does, which is a good thing. China in 4 decades lifted 880 million people out of poverty. According to Xi, he said that they have shaken up poverty, and that is a reality as of last year. And the next plan, they have already planned for the next 5 years. Apart from 5 years to come, that is in 2025.
Yes.
China wants to build a socialist modern society,
okay,
and a prosperous society in that particular matter. So this is what Africa and Nigeria should actually try to copy. When you make a policy, implement it. Target it, you know, target a population, bring them out of poverty, give them knowledge. Make sure that members of political parties, you know, stick and adhere to the rules and regulations governing the political party, as well as the blueprint for national development.
Thank you so much. Dr. Sheriff Ghali Ibrahim, just nice having you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
That's another program. We looked at the Communist Party of China, CPC. It has hit 100th anniversary after putting in 76 years of governance without the people's mandate. Yet everything is working. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.